Hamshech Chaim Beis, Volume 1. We're in the middle of chapter 147. So after explaining the four levels of Daimim Tzemeach Chaim Medaber, which is the inanimate, the plant, growth, with some life force, Chai, with its complete life force, and Medaber, within Medaber, which briefly is the intelligence. In intelligence itself, you have four dimensions. Intelligence, in its core, in its purest form, is essentially an ethereal entity that conceives of ideas, that thinks about things. But in that itself, there are four elements of that, four dimensions. The first dimension is an intelligence that's in technique, the technique of a skill, of a craft, of drawing, whatever it may be. So there's an intelligence there, but it's primarily invested in the technique, and as such, it assumes the personality of that, which makes it more materialized. Then there's an intelligence in conceiving of what you're going to, what skill you use and how to use it and so on. That is the Tzemeach within Seichel, which really encompasses all of science, Chochmas HaTeva, as he said. Anything in understanding the world is Tzemeach Shebeseichel. He says the words are Hakam Tza, the idea, the innovation behind the skill, even if he doesn't know how to implement the skill. Then comes the third level, Chai. That, he says, the intelligence of composing words. It's a whole new level of intelligence enters a child called Meichen Diyanika, which is a stage of intellectual development in a child, and that is what allows a child to speak. So that's number 3, which in itself is more sublime than the first two. Like Chai is far more revealed energy, because number 1, letters are more ethereal, and number 2, you need an additional power, a strength to enter into the development of the intellect in order to be able to compose words. Whereas craft or a skill can be trained. As well, speech, even with training, will not help until that stage of development arrives. He didn't really qualify. What about Chai? What about Tzemeach? Tzemeach is the innovation and skill. Seemingly that is not something that's just trained. But I guess that too can be trained. How to use a skill, how to conceive of different ideas. And maybe he hints to it that once you have once the child has the seichel, the intelligence of speech, it's far easier for a child to learn a skill, any skill. So there's no real chiddush in the skill, and even in the innovation within the skill, because you're dealing with something that's already there. You just have to figure out how to use it. Like he gave the example of a person a very wise person who understands an idea, but it's in a different language. So what's lacking is just a technical matter. He doesn't know the language. It's not a fundamental. When he learns a language, it's not like a fundamental development in his intelligence. It's just he learned that language. And then finally, as he says, Medaber Sheba Medaber, which is Seichel itself, he calls it, what does he call it? Haskalah. And Etzemin Haskalah Haskalah Chakim. The mere thing to be able to conceive, to think, to understand, to innovate. And he said the purest form of that is an intelligence that's not connected to any object. And therefore, specifically, that's Haskalah in Elikus. Haskalah Belikus. Haskalah. So you have Haskalah Sachemer is the lowest level. Using his words, Haskalah Sachemer, the intelligence around objects, around matter. And you have Haskalah Mufshatas, you can say, it's complete abstract. It's about the divine force, as it says, is Lifnei HaTeva, that puts existence into place. More specifically, when a person is able to actually completely understand it, like as if he sees it, that makes it even more, strips it of any type of objectification. It's the concept itself, and all the way in the highest levels of Elokus, where it's completely stripped and freed from any Hagbola. And he qualified, doesn't mean Seichel is Bliegvul, Seichel is Shaykh in Bliegvul. But he means that the intelligence is not around the parameters of something. It means it's in its purest form. It says, Inyan hu shemispashet magbola v'yeshes. There's a tachlis haruchnis. So it's not Bliegvul in the sense where it's in the complete infinite, no parameters at all. It is intelligence, but it is now not surrounded by the limited parameters of anything. So in other words, the intelligence itself is in a world of an ethereal world that doesn't have parameters, even though it is ultimately also a gvul. So in a sense, it's like an interface, because it is intelligence it's human intelligence, but it's able to go to places like before the Tzimtzum, to go to the Ayin Eliki, that how the existence was put into place. So in that sense, it's mufshet, it separates itself. That's how I would explain it. In other words, it's seichel, since it's seichel anushi, it's intelligence, human intelligence that's trying to understand God. So it has an element of, it can't call it Bliegvul. It's not just faith. On the other hand, however, it's mufshet magbola v'yeshes. It's as opposed to, let's say, science or any of the other levels of intelligence we discussed. And I was going to explain Naveda, which often helps us understand also the Haskalah. So Ubaveda, starting on bottom of page 285. Ubaveda inyan hadal madregas datzcham. In Naveda, what are the four levels of Deim Tzemei Chaim Daber? Hin b'chinas Deim hu ma'aseh mitzvos b'peil mamish b'kabol sel malchus shamayim. Deim is the act of doing mitzvahs, b'peil mamish, in actuality. Kabol sel malchus shamayim. In other words, without necessarily any type of intelligence or preparation, just a kabol sel, accepting the yoke of heaven. V'yin kabol sel b'zehu. What's the kabol sel in this? What is this acceptance? What is this like? Just doing it as, because this is what was stated. This is a commitment to the authority that tells you to do it. Hu shebehechrich ube'oil mamish. Kabbalah Sel is that it's literally compelling himself, imposing upon himself. Oil means effort. Oil means a yoke. So it's not coming pleasantly. It's coming as like you're carrying a load on your back. You feel like you're carrying a yoke. It says it clearly. Kamasa covered to all love. He forces himself to do it. Ukamasa covered to all love, like a heavy weight, a heavy package, a heavy load that rests on him. Ukamay evet pashut, like a simple servant. Evet pashut is an expression, especially in Samach Vov, it elaborates. Is evet pashut, the evet neman. Those expressions are from Psukim. So Moshe was called Moshe Eved Neman. So Eved Neman is a loyal servant. Eved Pashut is a simple servant. So it explains in Samach Vov that Eved Pashut doesn't do it necessarily because of an intelligence or because of an emotional connection. He's a simple Eved, like he's saying here, Ma'aseh b'peil. Eved Neman is, like he says, is like a ben shenasa Eved. Eved Neman is someone who has an intelligence. He's also a servant and chooses to dedicate his life and commit it to his master. But he's not. It's not coming from a simple place. It's coming from an intelligent person who's chosen to set that aside or to use it toward the service of the leader of the master. So, k'may evet pashet she'ein reitze b'shum aveda v'sheirus. There he also explains that evet pashet has the other side, being that it's not due to intelligence and so on. So he is just basically dedicated himself. He forced himself to be this. It's not coming from because it's logical. He wants to be connected to this master. So he says, he doesn't want any type of work and shadus and service. The avda befkeda nichle Gemara says, Avda b'hefkeda, a true Eved, a servant, prefers hefkedus, prefers his freedom. Actually, hefkedus is not freedom. Hefkedus means to do whatever he wants, basically. Free for all. He does it only because of the yoke. In other words, because it's a commitment. And the fear of the master. Shalov. And the fear of the master that's upon him. This is all a mashal. What's the example? There's all daimim in Aveda. Daimim seichel sheb Aveda, probably. She'ena reitze became mitzvahs. He doesn't want to do it on his own. His nature is to follow whatever his desires are, wherever his heart desires. He doesn't want to do it on his own. He does it b'derech el v'hechrech. In other words, it's primarily action oriented. It's technique. It's doing it. We had earlier in some Amorim, very while back, similar adaga he spoke in Aveda. There's Aveda like this. The end of a Maimer, I think. There's an Aveda that's purely Kabbalah Sel, and then there's Aveda also in the Dagas. Maybe Adenu Zenu? Could be?
Right after that.
What was the level? What was it called there?
I remember it,
yeah, it's just good to compare. Because it's all connected, you can imagine. And this approach, in other words, doing it simply out of commitment, is both in surmara, in avoiding negative things, and also in doing good things, seitiv. The besurmara masha asr lanu hatera, in surmara, in avoiding the negative, what the Torah forbids us from doing, prohibits us, einze meruchik memenu. The isser, the possibility, God forbid, of him doing it is not that distant. That the thing should be completely unthinkable that he would, how he would do it, God forbid. One second, how does this, one second.
It's not like that.
It's not like
that.
Yeah, like he can do it.
He could do it. I just said that.
Right.
No, but what's the parentheses?
Just translation of the
Yeah, we'll read it. Vivet Tom mitardach nit.
No,
Is
aber eins haben wir doch
weil
gemeint.
wir das nicht
Es ist nicht so.
nicht
Also wie wird der Ton mit Tardach mit?
That's nicht das.
das ist noch nicht
Yeah, no, I see. I'm reading it that way. Found it?
das ist interessant für Ursprache sein.
It's not about the color, right?
No. Maybe, yeah, could be in the color. The colorless Aveda.
Right.
Yeah, probably is. It's on the left side, I think. That's the thing's gone good.
Just find which page it is.
That wasn't the
Yeah. You're colorless, and that page with the Gavin, completely no color is a keser.
I think it's over here.
It must be like
But I think there is a different vort. There is a different vort. There is not this. That's not Damon. You know what he says there? There's no color. There's no kavon. There's no ulterior motive.
Here it is.
There's no ulterior motive. It's not this level.
It's not this.
There's no ulterior motive. There's no color. Nothing is coloring his intentions. That's what he said there.
There's no
Yeah, that's like a highest level actually. That's a far higher level. But I think there's something else. There's something else also. Okay, it doesn't matter. So here we go. So this is the Nichlev. Beruchnis. Shein reis bekim mitzvos ve'eser rak b'derech el v'hechrech. Hem besed. The besum rav mas asel lo natayre ein ze meruchik memeno. She davar mufrach etzlei eich yasses eschram. Vivet tatam mitardach nit. He doesn't have that feeling. So the parenthesis is actually on what he doesn't have.
Right.
How could you do such a thing? You're not allowed. He doesn't have that feeling. By him, it's possible. It's in the realm of possibility. Rak shemachriach esatzmei. Except he compels himself. Of course, he forces himself not to do it. There's a level, there's a place, a situation where it's mamish and dvarim asurim. The person is capable of literally, God forbid, literally prohibited things to transgress. Ubedakus, hu bedvarim hamutarim. And more subtly, it's permissible things. But in other words, dvarim asurim, some people have that, but there's the situations where dvarim asurim he would also not do. But dvarim mutarim, that's where he is not so, it's not abgefrekt, it's not out of the question, it's not, what's the word? Unthinkable. What?
It's not impossible.
Not impossible. In other words, it's not. Yeah. For who hakfiyah? So this is the kfiyah, but pale mamish. This is the compelling, the forcing himself in actuality and action. Through work and commitment and actually forcing himself not to do it, then he tears himself away. In truth, nitak, he cuts himself off. Nitak, he removes himself. He cuts off, severs his connection. Be'emes, in truth, from crass things. They doesn't want them. So it didn't begin that way. It began that he's after befkeda nichalei. He's fine. He's free. Everything goes. And on his own, it's not out of the question. It's not unthinkable. It's not impossible for him to do something. And yet, through Aveda, Kfiyah and Papel Mamish, he doesn't do it. L'fi erech Aveda kenu ha'ataka. It's a nice expression. And commensurate, proportionate to the work, that's how much he's going to be removed from it. How he's going to be, he's going to sever himself. Ma'achumris. So it's all l'fi erech. There's no Aveda, God forbid, he doesn't have it in him. He's not an Evan. He's a simple guy that wants to do whatever he wants. But with Aveda, he tears himself away from it. He severs the connection, and according to the measure of Aveda, the more he's removed, basically. All of this, he still desires in all these things. And he has a strong connection to it all. So don't think, even if the Aveda is still on his own, he's shaykh to it all. This is that level. And it's only Bekayach, he forces himself with force, power. He imposes on himself, Shalei Yasa, although they shouldn't actually do it. But he does say that with Aveda, he does get removed, he does sever his self from it. That's from Ra. Same thing in the positive and good things. Just like before with Shemara, we said it was not impossible, it was not abgefrekt, it was not mufrach that he should want it. Here, he doesn't have a particular desire to do mitzvahs. He actually doesn't want to do mitzvahs. And he has no passion in it, he has no life in it, he has no interest. Chayes, passion, excitement, he's not excited by it. It's not where he gets excited. Here too, he forces himself, he compels himself to do the mitzvah in actuality. So this is daimim in Aveda. So it's there, stone is there, but it's inanimate. There's no chayes. That's why it says in bechayes.
This is most of today.
Halavai. Halavai daimim. Halavai bein. Halavai daimim. Okay. Good. Now, how does that fit to the first level of seichel? Technique. So just doing the technique, there's enough wisdom to just do it. So there's a little wisdom, but it has no real. In Aved, it's clear because it's a really inanimate action. Okay. Now we're climbing the ladder.
He's working with his own teva. Is that the connection?
No, technique is not teva. Chachmus teva is tzemeach. This is just technique. This is action.
His own nature. He's working with his own nature. Not teva as in teva.
But yeah, what is it? But that he didn't say that on Daimon Seichel.
He doesn't want to do it, but he's forcing himself to do it. So he's like working.
No, that's not what he was trying to say. It's connecting it to the first. I don't know what. Yeah. It doesn't say that. So teva comes in level 2.
That's the level you don't like so much.
Level 2 is a very good level.
Level
It's
one.
most people intelligence. What do you mean I don't like?
The stain.
Who does like
To be
it?
a stain.
I don't like it, but I'm a stain like all of everybody. We're all in the same stain.
Hij zegt toch hallewaar stain.
Heit hat mich gefühlt, wenn wir da mal gehabt mit einer Mitzvah.
Right. I
Gut, das
don't
aber noch die gefühlt, really.
Here there's even, I don't even think that he's speaking about conformity here. No, this is even higher than
With
that.
the sensitized.
Here, Bechlal is cultural.
Was dus gerecht nechten.
Today it's out of, here at least he's forcing himself. Here it's like a habit.
Yeah, but the Sumer Rapar, people force themselves.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Just for the record, I love Jews. Just everybody should know this. Huh?
Am Israel.
Papa Corleone is listening, so be careful.
He's working with this Chomer, so it's a connection.
Ubchinas HaTzemeach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Chomer. It's a Kolos HaChomer. Now, just there's an intelligence involved in the technique, except it's a minimal intelligence just to do it.
That's Avodah.
Called it as Kolos HaChomer. Naved, it's Chomer. It's fine. It fits. Ubchinas HaTzemeach. Next level, plant, the vegetation. Remember we said Sameach is very close to the daemon, but now Yeshlik Tzas is that it grows. I saw in the Alter Rebbe's Maimer where he takes this from, this piece of Sameach, close to the daemon, is the two things he said, that one I mentioned, one I didn't. One is that it's Sameach, when you cut it, you see it just becomes a daemon. And two, when you burn it, it looks, you can't even tell, it's ashes, just like you would burn a mineral. With an animal, obviously, he doesn't say that, but animal clearly is a whole different story.
If you kill it, doesn't it go very good? Are you doing?
Well, it has still blood in it. It has, it's a whole thing. You got to burn it. Yeah, at the end of it, you can cremate it. Okay, anyway, but has a little chayes, has a little life. Became a mitzvahs. In the fulfillment of mitzvahs. Through the knowledge and through the feeling, through the awareness and through the hergish, the feeling, that he's fulfilling the divine will, higher will. And he's realizing God's desire. The be'emes, is gam simcha shal mitzvah. So first of all, this k'tzas chayis. This isn't just pure Eved just forcing himself go carry a bag of stones across the street. Doesn't matter, absolutely no investment in it with his faculties. Like a daimon, his faculties are not alive. Here, he has k'tzas chayis, and he goes now deeper. Be'emes, from this alone, that he has this awareness, could be not just chayis, could be gam simcha shal mitzvah. This second level tzemeach could also be simcha shal mitzvah, actual simcha, joy, rejoicing, celebrating in the mitzvah. Like it says elsewhere, al derech moshel, using the example, for example, melech shemitzav lo'adam poshet, a melech that commanded, that instructed or ordered a simple person, lasses davar, to do something. He celebrates and rejoices in the fact that he's fulfilling the desire of the king. So it's not just he's doing it as mechanically. Same thing every Jew, every Israel. Mitzvah became a mitzvah. Been commanded in the fulfillment of mitzvah. And this is the zehu Baruch. This is God's desire. Just thinking about that alone, from this should be a great simcha, a great joy in his nefesh, in his spirit. That he has the ability, you have been commanded and asked by God to do something, you have the ability to fulfill a divine will, divine desire. So this is all tzemech. Omnam, however, al kaponim k'sheyesh b'k'tzas hergish. Even if you don't have the simcha, if he has only a little hergish, a little feeling, shemekayim amashlim d'tzeni yizbarach. In other words, the full-blown tzemech, it can always lead into a full simcha shal mitzvah. He says, omnam, a kaponim, meaning regardless, even if he doesn't have that high simcha, if he has a little hergish and he's fulfilling and realizing God's desire Yesh l'ksas chayis b'kim ha-mitzvahs. He will then have. In other words, he's not just doing it. It's like someone tells you, go carry this bag. Doesn't even know what's in the bag. It doesn't matter and all that. He's just doing it out of Kabbalah sale. He has a little feeling. He'll also have a sense of life, sense of passion, vitality. That's the word I wanted. Vitality. That's chayis. Yeah. Let's go back. Chayis. Yeah. In chayis, there's no vitality. B'kim ha-mitzvahs will have some vitality in the fulfillment of the mitzvahs. B'sur merah, both like you said earlier, sur merah v'asei tev she'en adover koved alov. Because the thing is not just a heavy load. It's not just some heavy weight, dead weight. Okay, let's stop here. Good. Now he's going to the third level. I'm assuming. Okay. So we got the two clear? Yeah. One is absolutely no, one is like a stone, inanimate, no vitality, and the other one has some vitality, and it could even lead them to Simcha Shomitz. Okay. Now, one who fulfills them in truth, I think this is a Lashon of Tanya, yeah, he says it. Hua'eh v'shem Havaya is a person who loves God, v'chefetz the dovkebe, and desires to cleave to Him, wants to connect. Like he says in Tanya, chapter 4. The Ava v'Yira, the Ava and Yira, love and respect or love and awe, Hey Mokir are the source for Ramach Mitzvah Sesa. Ava is the source for the 248 positive mitzvahs, and Yira is the source for Shasal Leisese, for 365 negative. Do not, thou shalt not. The Kishiyesh le Ava Amitis Belakus, when a person has true love for God and godliness, Har you chefetz b'kiyum ha-mitzvahs. Chofetz. He desires in the fulfillment of mitzvahs, because through this he gets attached, connected, cleaved. And he has a lot of great vitality, great energy, a lot of passion in it. This is clearly the third level. Because not just talking there, it was the minimal hergish that may lead to Simcha Shomitz, just based because you're fulfilling God's here. Here's the other way around. Because you have such Ava, that's why you are
going out to get it.
See, that's the difference in Chai and Tzemeach. Tzemeach is more like Daimim, except it has some life. So the second level is really closer to Daimim, except it's not complete dead.
When it comes its way.
Chai, on the other hand, is the whole animal comes alive. So that means there's a life force. So here there's a life force, there's an Ava, which he says, Achamakaimim be'emes. The way you're supposed to is because you have Eivas Hashem, because you love God. That's why, not just because God's okay. Here, the king told you do a mitzvah, so you have some simcha in it because you know that He's chosen you to do it. Here, there's an actual connection with godliness. You have a love for God, and that ava is the sherish for mitzvahs. It's the other way around. In other words, in the Daimon Tzemeach, he starts with the command. Do the mitzvah, either you do it mechanically, or you do it also you have some feeling in it. Here's the other way around. The love brings the mitzvah. Not the mitzvah is the dominant thing, is the love, the connection, and the dveikus is what causes you. Yeah, that's a key difference. So you see, Mamash fits very good with Chai. Because Tzemeach is a daimon with life. Chai is not a daimon or Tzemeach with life. Chai is a whole different entity. It's a life force. It's a nefesh. Good.
This is the word.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel the dead weight on his back.
That's good. Yeah. Correct.
Carrying himself is almost.
Yeah. And also the life is so much part of him, so it's not like two things.
He doesn't feel that burden at all.
Yeah.
The burden is also the wrong.
Yeah. Burden. Yeah. Burden is the right. Oil. Yoke, burden. Burden is a good word. Same thing the other way with Yira. So again, he's talking everything is Asay Tev and Surmera Asay Tev now too. Now, Avos Hashem brings Asay Tev, and the same thing Yira brings Surmera. Shleisasa. The Yira b'Surmera. So we have here three levels in Asay Tev, Surmera and Asay Tev. Action, some feeling, and now it's the other way around. His love and awe is what drives them. V'hainu ba'av Yira b'izgalus halev. This means with a love and an awe that is revealed in the heart, that come through the expansive comprehension, vizbonenus and contemplation, elokus and godliness. We learned this. This is like Midas Sheba Meichen. So it sounds like to me. The first two sound to me like Yaakov and Yisrael Zuta. And this third one sounds like Yisrael Saba. And then there's Meichen Be'etzim. Hey, that is exactly where that is. Ooh. Well, we've got to rethink this whole thing now. Man. Set up our shop. All stimmt. Okay, so he began to Amshachas. He began the Kudus for the Partzav. Now we're talking Partzav Abiyah and the Sfira. And Abiyah is now coming those 4 levels. Interesting. Oh, Semeridik. Man, I thought he's going completely different there because he went to the Kudus for the Partzav. It's all to come to lead to this. Okay, interesting. I mean, I'm sure he's going to say it specifically, but it looks like we've gotten there.
So sometimes you say to others that bring in another other, you say, I wouldn't say that. Rishab doesn't say it here. So I wouldn't say it.
Maybe I trust myself more than I trust others. I'm ready to bet on this, actually.
No, but don't you think he would, like, I don't know if he would...
He's gonna say it. Because he didn't finish the whole Inyan. But
he doesn't shy away from what he has to say. If it would be Yisrael Saba Tfuna, he would say it, no?
He's gonna say it.
Okay.
I think he's gonna say it. And if he doesn't, so then I'll say it. But I can't say for sure. I said it sounds it. It resonates. You know, you're reading it. It sounds like we read a few pages. Like when you want to connect. I'm first to admit if it's wrong. I'm not going to elaborate. It just sounds that way. So that's the level of Chai. Magid Devar of the Yankov. What I tell others, I tell myself to trust me. I'm listening to what he says here. If he goes in a different direction, I'll change course in a second. I'm not invested in changing pshat here. Like you said, I want to know what he says, not what I say. I know what I think. The Kamoya Chai, so here goes, this is the level of Chai. The Kamoya Chai yesh bei nefesh mamish. Remember another thing that I always do, it's important. I'm always thinking how this connects to what we learned. We didn't start a new sugi here. It is a flow. I'm just wondering what that is. I'm not defending myself, I'm just saying. The Kamoya Chai yesh bei nefesh mamish, just like a Chai, like we said before, life, an animal, has mamish a nefesh. It's a real life force, a revealed, full life force. The same thing as this person, Naveda, who has a ribuy eira, an abundant energy and vitality, divine energy and vitality. Chayes is a good word, vitality, I like it. I'm looking for a word for chayes. Sometimes it's life force, energy, air, energy.
He says also, Chayish by Nefesh Mamish, it means he's galus in Nefesh Mamish, because he said before in the Daimim also that he has a Nefesh Mamish.
Right.
It just wasn't these galus.
Yeah. Well, he says only yes. No, he doesn't say it's galus here. He just yes by nefesh mamish.
And the Daimim also has a Nefesh.
Nicht mamish.
Even
It's not his galus. Didn't he say that?
What is it? Mamish?
Look, go back there. Go. He said it. There's a different lashon. He said he says like shadei yesh by gamken chayes vi nefesh adei memes. Chayes it has.
It's in the deep door is nefesh mamish.
Aber be'etzmo say hu deim. Aber chay enu b'chinas deim klal v'hainu shenafshei shegufi enu deimim v'tzemeach enu merke klal nefesh mamish. Yeah. There he says nefesh mamish. There he says it's chayes.
But he calls it a nefesh adei. He calls it a nefesh.
But he says this way. He says this lashon. It has chayes. That is the nefesh adei memes.
Here he says, "Adayim tzemechem b'kirub zel zasher adayim yesh b'gamkin chayes."
Who?
Nefesh hadimemes.
Yeah. Look, nefesh means that there's an energy that gives it life, but it's but nefesh mamish he doesn't call it. Yeah, nefesh chaya. You don't say it's a nefesh chaya, like you say by an animal. Okay. So here we go. So this is what? So this is look, very technically you said Chayin Eis Atzmi is one example also. You see an animal, the dominant thing you see is life force. It's a moving animal. The body is just a vehicle. When it comes to Tzameach and Daimim, the vehicle is the key thing, and you look closer, you see it grows. In Daimim you understand that something is sustaining it. But there's no animation. There's nothing that you can't call it what we call a living organism. Obviously today it's subatomic particles are there and energy is in it. A stone can yield unbelievable amount of nuclear energy. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about in its state. It is in the animate state. An animal is an animal. Animal means it's animated. It's moving about. Chol chai misnaneya. Everything that's alive is always moving. Even when it's asleep, it's moving. Heart beating. It's breathing. The driving force is life, a life force. Here too, you could have a mitzvah that's a daimim, but the daimim is like someone tickled it, so it's also a little energetic. It's like someone pinching their cheeks on Purim to look happy. And then there's a bislabedik on mitod or on mashka.
Nicht gemacht. That's a labedik.
Okay. Can men meinen, I'm a halchen by the hechste madrege. No, hebt zich nicht done. We're still in the animal world. This is on the animal. If you reach this, you're already an animal in Aveda. Not bad.
This is Yitzhira, right?
This is Bria. Atzilus is Medaber.
No, you didn't start Asiya, Yitzhira.
See it? This is Bria. Chai is Bria.
Chai,
Yeah. Omnom. Now we're going to the level we all aspire to, right? Omnom medaber hu aveda b'bchinas meichin. Medaber is the work and the level of meichin, intelligence, in its pure form. Dina b'chinas chai shu'in ava v'yira shai de hasoge hai ze b'chinas meichin ha'shayochem l'midas. We're not going to say this sounds similar to what it says before, right? But it does. Anyway. Because Chaya is Avav Yira. It's emotions. Shayidei HaSaga. That comes through intelligence. So the intelligence is has a b'chinas meichin ha'shayachim l'midas. That's still meichin, intelligence that is a relationship with midas. Which in our case we were talking before was like the wisdom, intelligence in learning how to speak. Medaber is etzem, the core intelligence that's higher than midas. Like we said, it's an intelligence that's not connected to application. Oh, that works really good because we spoke about application. Remember the midas seichel. There's no netias, there's no inclinations here. Because before, so all the seichel is there's an inclination to some application, a technique. Halacha. Halacha, what we spoke earlier, halacha, that's daimim. It has a little reason in it, so that here we're talking about the intelligence itself, not shayach to midas. What is this in Aveda? It's now he adds the word now iskashus. By level 3 he used dveikus. By level 2 he didn't even use that. He just said you're mekayim God's will. Now he's using iskashus. It's the attachment, the connection, dveikus, and the cleaving to belakus and godliness. That's not connected to anything below it. Like we said, the seichel, it's not connected to a particular nature or something that it's some application or something that it's relating to. It's godliness itself. Kim adrabah. On the contrary, hu b'chinas tachlis ha'achdus. V'adveikus b'lamayla be'elakus. Lamayla be'elakus. That's how you have to read it. Is the ultimate unity and cleaving and attachment. B'lamayla and above in godliness. Mm-hmm. So it's l'fnei hateva. Yeah.
Where do we find Yisrael's Zutra? I don't see it.
I don't know what you're saying. That's level 2. That's Semeach.
We have 2 levels in Yaakov. With the 2 levels in Yaakov.
I don't know what you're saying.
Peshitas, I'm going to explain. Peshitas.
Where did we learn there were 2 levels in Yaakov?
Can I just explain?
I'm
going to say.
You're creating your own 2 levels?
No, I'm going to say. The Yaakov, I think, was the 2 levels was Peshitas, no understanding at all, and so we said we had this Rachvus, in it was still Yaakov. We had 2 levels in Yaakov, without even his Rachvus and with his Rachvus. When we moved into Yisrael Zutra, that's where the making actually affected, the making actually affected the Midas entirely. I don't know if we can call that Sameach.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know where you got these levels. You created some levels I never heard of.
No, I don't think it did. Where is it? You remember? What page?
Yes, I remember quite well. There's Yaakov, Yisrael Zuta, Yisrael Saba, and Abba V'im Milan. That's it. There's nothing else. There's no fifth level.
Yisrael is when the meters were affected by the Merchant. It's such an extent we call the Midas Agatmos.
Yeah, that's fine. That's Sameach.
That's Sameach. I thought it's more similar to the lower level Yaakov.
There is only Yaakov and Yisrael Zuta. There is no middle level.
I thought there are 2 levels in Yaakov.
Where did you get those 2 levels? I don't remember in Ayin Beis.
Okay. I'll look.
If you find it, by all means.
You don't remember? You said you don't remember 9 days. Is it elsewhere in the Rebbe?
There's 2 levels in Yaakov, but it's completely not related to this.
Oh, but these levels of Yaakov and Yisrael Zuba of Chulu are mentioned outside of Ayin Beis?
Yeah. I mean, not so elaborate. It's always 4 levels. You can't have a 5th level. It doesn't fit. It disturbs the whole Stausschluss. Okay, so here we go. So yes, it definitely relates to Yaakov being the minimum. I mean, the only thing you could ask is that Yaakov itself is also a little tam. He said there is a tam for the halacha. So it's not complete daimim mamish, but fine. That's fine. Because there is a nefesh. At the end of the day, there is something. He's saying you are doing the mitzvah. It's not like completely. I'm not talking about inanimate like you're asleep. You're doing the mitzvah, but it's not with any vitality. Then comes the midas that are informed by Meichen. This is Tzameach. And then comes the Meichen as it affects midas, which is Chaya. It has this vitality. Meichen that affects it. He says clearly, Meichen sheyochem the midas. And then there's Meichen be'etzem. Good. Ubesefer Shabbein in Perek Lamed Ches Kosov, and in Tanya chapter 38, he writes the Dal Madregas Datzcham. He writes also about these 4 levels of Dem Tzameach HaMedaber. Daimim hu ma'isa mitzvahs bli kavana. Daimim, inanimate, is actions without intention. It's a little different than what he's saying here. Tzameach muvim shesham shein mitzvahs hatluyis b'dibur u'biteis v'sayim. Kshem bli kavana. Tzameach is understood there from Tanya that the mitzvahs that are connected to speech, like let's say tefillah or bracha, mitzvahs that are connected to saying something. Ubitus v'sayim, expression of your lips.
Shem bli kavan.
Shem bli kavan. Yeah.
It's more connected to them.
Right. But it's already saying something. There's a ma'isa mitzvahs bli kavana. Can you open the tiny? I want to just see what it says there, because it says mashma b'sham, move misham. Ubchinas chai hein av yira musteres. And the level of chai is the level of av yira that's hidden. Okay, I'll look at it later. I got to learn it. Okay. Is avira that's concealed. So it's avira. Ve'en avira she betfunas mechei v'talumas libay. Tfuna. Yeah, it fits. Tfuna. So that's avira. That's in tfunas mechei in the bina within his mind. Like we said, tfuna is really the midas shebabina or nehi shebabina, and the talumas libay. And what's concealed in his heart. Medaber. What's medaber in ha'ava v'yirish shebizgalos halev, not mushateres, not concealed, is the love and awe that can reveal in the heart. Haboy dehasogav bonus that comes through contemplation, through comprehension and contemplation. So this is a little different. These 4, because the 4th one is still here. The number 3 sounds like number 4 here.
Right, because
it's a little different. Okay, fine, it's all right. He's saying he's bringing a little different twist.
Abba Bima was very non-emotional.
Yes, Shleimer.
He talks about a bit how there's Merchus Rachafus by Yaakov. There's Peshitos and there's Merchus Rachafus in the level of Yaakov. And it doesn't seem that the little that we find by.
Let me just finish the chapter and then you'll show me and we'll look at it. V'yesh Leimer, and we can say Shazel Masha Shayich L'Kima Mitzvah.
Trying to reconcile this, right?
Not necessarily. No? Probably not. Because the way he says it, but Seif Shabbenim, it looks like he's like a little different. Let's see. Yesh Leimer could be. He's explaining it to Tanya itself. Let me read it, and we'll see. Shazel Masha Shayich L'Kima Mitzvah. Maybe he is trying. We'll see. Maybe you're right. Yesh Lema Shezehu, what's Shezehu? In other words, the Tanya is all about what is connected to performing mitzvahs. Omnam be'etzem aveda, you're right, he's trying to reconcile. In other words, the Tanya is talking already how it's connected to mitzvahs. So, when connected to mitzvahs and fulfillment of mitzvahs, there's 4 levels. There's daimim, is actual doing without intention. Sameach is the words without intention. Chai, which means you already have something expressed.
Some movement.
Yeah, some movement, but it's without intention. Chai is the hidden love that comes from the hidden intelligence, and medaber is the revealed love that comes through contemplation. He says this is what shaykh l'kim ha-mitzvahs. But be'etzem aveda, meaning not just doing mitzvahs, the whole aveda in general, even though it sounded like he was also talking about mitzvahs before, but okay. B'chinas ha-meichen ha-shayech l'mitzvahs and b'chinas madregas ha-chai. Yeah. The meichen shayech l'mitzvahs, what he says in Tanya, meichen shayech l'mitzvahs, is not medaber, it's chai. That's where the real difference is. So in Tanya, he calls midas, he calls that medaber, because he's talking kima mitzvahs. But if you're talking about etzem aveda, anything meichen shayech mitzvahs is already chai. Ubchinas medaber u aveda ubchinas meichen be'etzem, which he doesn't talk about in Tanya. Chiddush is that Tanya doesn't talk about meichen be'etzem because he's not talking about aveda. Aveda includes his bonus. Tanya is talking about mitzvahs. Since Ma'aseh mitzvahs, you're not talking about just contemplation on its own, intelligence on its own. That's like the union of the Merkava, being completely chariot and bottled to Lakus. Like it says in the next chapter there, Lametes 39, that this is the level of Bria Natsilis. So we have to look in Tanya, because he's definitely saying a chiddush in Tanya. Tanya seems to be talking about Kima Mitzvah, so therefore the Meichin is already shaykh to Midas, to application. The level of Meichin Be'etzem is not discussed in Tanya. That's the level of Merkava, which is Madrega Bria, which is Atzilus. That Bria is Chaya and Atzilus is Medaber. So Merkava is Atzilus. I have to look there. There's two hints. Yeah. That Lametes is. In other words, Merkava is Meichen Be'etzem, which is higher than the 4 levels in Tanya. So it really does come 5 levels actually. Seems to be. Okay. Now, you want to show me what you want to ask me?
Yeah, on page Ray Samachar, it has the top of touch. He's giving a shot in what it means, Yaakov, stop stealing, that kind of idea. Then it says it's possible there'll be Marshall's Rachmas and Meichim and still be called.
Yeah, we know this, okay.
So
that's not 2 levels in Yaakov. I would not call that 2 levels in Yaakov.
But are we going to call it Sameach, the next level where we have godless of...
Sameach is Yisrael Zut, it's clear, it's as clear as day. I mean, it's not even a question in my mind, but...
That's godless Amechim. Godless Amidas.
Godless Amidas, the Midas are growing, yeah. Sameach, that's what Sameach means. The Midas have developed.
That's a pretty good Madrega.
Everything's a good Madrega. Daimim, some people don't have either. 7 billion people on this earth.
The daimim is also very good Madrega.
Yeah.
I mean, good. Everything is good, depends where you are. But the point being is that Yaakov is primarily the action, the halacha. It has some tam. Daimim also has a life force. So there's something going on there. It's not nothing.
That's the
Right, exactly. It's very, very, very consistent. Yisrael Zuta is Midas, and the Midas of the development of Midas, to the point of Meichen the Godless. Not Meichen the Godless, Midas the Godless, informed by, but it's still Midas. So that's Shemeach, that he said, there's a feeling involved, even Simcha Shal Mitzvah. You could say the 2 things you just said is whether you have a Tzas Hergish or you have also Simcha Shal Mitzvah. Those 2 things you just pointed out, whether in Yaakov there is the minimum tam, reason, or Hisach was that, I would say, is the 2 things in Shemeach. Yeah. That in other words, the minimum you have some feeling, because you feel good, you feel fulfilling. God's will makes you feel good. It's a good feeling. It's a fulfillment. And then all the way to Simcha Shal Mitzvah. That's still all the midas. Then comes the next level, how Meichen informed midas, midas Sheba Meichen as he calls it. That's already now you're dealing. It's true. He speaks here more on emotions. He says you're feeling, you're connecting to God, Ava and Yira. But he says afterwards, it's the Meichen that informs Ava and Yira. He says Meichen Hashayach the Midas. That's Yisrael. No, Saba. That's Yisrael Saba. And then comes Moichem Be'etzem, Abba Ve'im Eloyin. Again, he doesn't spell it out, but it's just come out word for word. There's certain things here. I'm sure he'll spell it out someplace. It's hard to me imagine he won't.
Moichem Be'etzem had high levels of
Still in the
love.
middle of the topic. We didn't even finish it yet. Huh?
Has like high levels of love. Moichem Be'etzem brings out actually more emotions.
Well, this is your thought, or what he says here?
That's what it seems to say.
Where does he say such a thing? I didn't see anywhere such a thing. The opposite.
He said,
When you're in the Moichin, you're not even thinking. There's no more. Remember, there was a point he said you don't even feel anything.
You're in the zone.
Yeah, even on a lower level, you don't feel anything. He says even Midrash B'Meichin.
He said lower than that is Abba Mr. Terrorist.
They can be mechusim. You covered over by the mind.
He just said Tanya's not talking about Moichin Be'etzem. Tanya's talking about emotions connecting to mitzvahs. Moichin Be'etzem is completely absorbed in the divine. You don't even feel yourself. Remember, there was a point where he said it's not even mechusim. He called it Avayir mechusim. They're completely concealed.
It's like saying Shemon Esrei, you don't even.
And that too, what was that? That was still the level of Yisrael Saba, actually, if I recall. Right?
They had in both cases, they have mechusim. Is that right?
Yeah, there's another level of Sefer.
Mechusim
They
is
said
good.
Sipur Sapir and
Oh,
Mispar Sipur Sapir and Sefer.
safe. Yeah. That's when he engraves.
That's
Oh,
white.
It's completely part of it because it's only engraved.
He says there in Reish Sam and Chalaf also. A little bit further down the page.
That's what I'm looking at.
That's complete self-nullification.
In the
That
Mark
seems
Yishas,
that seems higher than
Ish Miskashu B'Sicha.
Ali Ilah. Higher than Al Rabba. Yeah, what he's saying. That's Yuri Ilah.
Yeah, even that's still a lower level. Even that's a lower level. You don't feel emotions. That's in Yisrael Saba. In Moichem Be'etzem, remember, Moichem Be'etzem is like Mashiach's times. That's when you completely one with what you know. Pnimis Ava. Remember, we talked about person comes with a teacher and the student. They're so focused in on each other. There's it's complete unity. That's the highest level. Moichem Be'etzem ultimately will be Lasud Lovei. Today he explained we have a taste of it. Remember, he spoke of the taste of it is Asagas Muhus. The taste of it is when we. What was his explanation of the taste of it? That the hanocha, that the resonance and the tamsis. Like when you sense it, when you sense the truth of something, that's a taste. Then you will have that full blown. Now you won't just sense it; you'll be it.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's a great level. No, it's very interesting here. What I'm concerned is why does he have to go through the whole thing with Nekuda Sfira Parsuf and a Maisa with Atzilus and Biyah and a Maisa with the Sidus and Isis?
He looks like he continues.
No, I'm sure. I'm just thinking it makes it. I want to see the end of the movie. There's no end. That's the problem.
No end in sight.
No, not only in sight. Rebbe Rashab never finishes Ayin Beis.
Never finish it?
Yeah, but nobody's ever been really bothered.
Work in progress.
Nobody's ever been bothered with what is not yet really, finalized. Nobody's gotten till there.
Maybe they have it in the Svarim that Putin is still holding, no?
No, it wasn't finished. They have all the Ksovim they have. They copied, not the originals necessarily, but there's no, they could. Now this is most likely doesn't exist because it was already the end of the Rebbe Rashav's life. It's already stopped it, right?
I thought it only goes to Lion Golf.
That's what he said it, but he wrote another book. There's a whole third volume that he didn't deliver. He continued writing till at least Ayin Ches or Ayin Tes even.
Oh, he was continuously writing.
He wrote the Hemshech continued and he didn't finish it. There's questions that are not answered at the end. So I see it's bothering you, huh?
Oh my.
Let's answer all the questions we have answered. Then we'll worry about what's not answered. I'm very excited to come. I'm excited to come to the end because I want to see from all that he said what the hypothetical ending would have been. From my first reading, it seems that you could figure it out. It's not like he wasn't like beginning a whole new chapter. It was like things that he didn't finish tying up certain threads. But I think from everything that he said, if you really learn this properly, I can't imagine through 2,000 pages that you can't have a picture by that. I mean, there's a lot, even now we have already a picture pretty much. This isn't, we're just getting underway.
What's interesting to seeing the Ma'aser Merkava and explaining it is like
Yeah, I understand.
millions and millions of words, whatever it comes out of, years that would take So, I mean, it's obvious.
I mean, to me, every time, anything I learn, no, but it doesn't work that way. There are also a structure that he wants to. I mean, what I pick up as we're learning here.
He's saying what that is.
This is a real encyclopedia of Chassidus. Yeah. He brought it up earlier. This is also about.
So he's saying how could
What's the third volume on the shelf? That's something else.
That's it. That's the third volume.
So there's supposed to be a fourth one?
No, supposed. He didn't. The third one ends. He didn't finish writing. I don't know how much more he would have written.
Yeah, he was only up to Yisrael Saba. Third volume.
No. The question is he goes back to the three things. There's Ner Mitzvah, Teira Er, and Der Chaim Techachas Musar. So he doesn't finish some questions he asks about Ner Mitzvah and Teira Er. It's connected to these ideas. Teira Chachma. Yeah. Also, the Hemshech changes tone as you go further, because the third volume he didn't go back on. It was the first draft. This is a fourth draft we're reading. This is 4 times the Rebbe Rashab went over this. That's why there's chapters, there's kitzurim, there's summaries, there's openings and endings. In volume 3, it's just the first draft.
The kitzurs are also the Rebbe Rashab?
What happens is there's really three. There's ayin bays with chapters and beginnings and ends. Then chapters stop in the middle of volume 2. So you only have Maimorim, which means it's already like maybe a second draft. The second, he went over it 2 times, but not more. Here 4 times at least. So what this is a really very, very thorough 4 times the Rebbe Rashab himself edited this. I mean, once written in 3 edits, so to speak. In volume 2, in the middle, he goes, it's only really 2. And then volume 3, it's the first. It's like only one first. Not to say that Rebbe Rashab's first is quite good, but it's probably going to be denser, and a lot of things were not as spelled out as had he gone over it again, I'm assuming. But fine, we have what we have. It's plenty to work with. Let's put it this way. It's a big mountain to climb. So let's do the kitzur. I see so many subplots. It's amazing what I'm finding here. Things I've never seen before. Besides chidushim, also the thoroughness is just unbelievably thorough. Look, you see here from this Tanya. He doesn't do this in other Maimorim often. He says something and he'll bring a Tanya. So if you learn the Tanya, you would have a question. How is the Tanya consistent with this?
You know you can have that question.
But he doesn't do that in other places. Here, he has the luxury, so to speak, because he's doing a big hemshech. He just goes on. There's no limits in space here. Which every Maimer has a limit. The Maimer beginning and an end. So it's very encyclopedic in a way. It's like very thorough. Things are covered. And if he doesn't bring something, it also means something. It means, why is he not bringing it, even though it's seemingly a contradiction? Because he almost qualifies everything. Remember, every time he says, look how many times have we found in parentheses that somewhere else it says this. But here we're speaking like this. I mean, tens of times. So that tells you something, that he's really bringing everything together.
The encyclopedia of all existence.
Well, 1912.
This is 1913 now.
They had Bachim were sitting in Tamach.
But they weren't learning this. They didn't have this. This was not given the might. They only had till Vayigash.
Very excited since they were not learning this.
First of all, I don't know what they were learning, not learning. I'm just saying that the hemshech that they had was only till page Reish Mandal. They only had this section.
Well, maybe then they did have it.
No, they didn't. They never. He gave out for Maitikim till Shavuos Ayin Gimel. This is all known. I mean, this is known because the Maskilim of our generation did not know of after from Ayin Gimel. And they knew till Vayigash. So there were those that heard it, and those that wrote Hanochas. But you don't have the scope of it.
Hanochas. Words, basically.
No, he continued. He said in the Hanochah, but it's not the scope of when the Rebbe Rashab himself writes it up and so on. You know, and no one. It's hard to imagine. No one probably understood where it's even going. I don't think there was anyone around from the beginning of Ayin Beis till the end of it. It was upheavals. It wasn't like peaceful times. When Ayin Beis, I heard Avrom Ayar heard one Maimer in Ayin Vov. When I was younger, I remember to hear this one heard of this. There are very few people that heard the Maimer that were there even Ayin Beis through Ayin Vov. You had to be in Lubavitch for 4 years. Even the Chayzrim, there was Rabbi Simpson or the Chayil Yaichel. He wrote Hanochas, but I don't know how many he wrote of Ayin Beis. Anyway, let's do the Kitzur. I also see another thing. There's a continuous development of themes in Kabbalah that you also very rarely see, like Eitz Chaim. You keeps bringing Eitz Chaim. So you could literally do an Ayin Beis on Eitz Chaim. Biyurim and Eitz Chaim from Ayin Beis. Eitz Chaim and Pardes. Those two are you see it constantly, again and again. Every few chapters, another Eitz Chaim, another Eitz Chaim. So at some point, I'm thinking that maybe you have the whole Eitz Chaim explained in Ayin Beis. It's just like, scattered. But yeah.
Well, Eitz Chaim is not as long as Ayin Beis.
Eitz Chaim is big. That's Eitz Chaim right there.
I know, I see it. That's a pretty big statement.
Yeah, it's long, but that's very Kabbalistic. There are things there that you need an explanation. Like even this whole thing with Datz Cham is all an Eitz Chaim. All began with an Eitz Chaim.
It's cryptic over there. Where you need to have explanation.
Yeah.
That's commentaries, man, right?
No, that's the result. That's
just.
There has commentary, but the main bulk is Reb Chaim Vital writing the result. Eitz Chaim is series book. Eitz Chaim. The Alter Rebbe knew Eitz Chaim by heart. Tanya, you see how he throws Eitz Chaim around in Tanya? It's like that. It's all over the place. Yeah, but you could see. I'm saying some places you see literally how he uses Eitz Chaim. The interesting thing is the most reliable of the Arizal's writings is the Shmona Sha'arim. It's called the 8 gates. Eitz Chaim is not as reliable. It's considered because the Ksavim, they say it says the Rebbe Rashab writes. Because the Ksavim, the Matikim, there were less mistakes, more. But they didn't have, the Alter Rebbe didn't have the Shmona Sha'arim, it wasn't published yet, or it didn't have available. So he used Eitz Chaim more.
But
The Rebbe brings about.
Authority
He was, but we don't have his original writing. It was rewritten, so there's mistakes.
So this is not necessarily directly from Reb Chaim Vital.
It's directly his, but many people rewrote it. It's not as reliable. It's not considered as reliable. Don't trust me. It's very reliable. But probably when it comes to certain, if there's a disagreement of a nuskh, they'll defer to. It's like Talmud Bavli and Yerushalmi. You defer to. Let's do the kitzur. I'm going to stop here. Vayisun ba'askolos hadibur hu b'davar ruchni. Shehu b'davar ruchni. Going back to the beginning of the chapter, he was talking about how dibur. This is the third. The chai is what the seichel within the intelligence within speak. Askolos hadibur, the intelligence in speaking. It's in a sublime thing. It's ethereal. B'davar ruchni isis. Va'oid. The second thing he said was shezel shenishlam b'davar shloi hoye b'kodim. That speech comes out of what is completed, a development stage that was not there before. Mashenka b'seichel ha'maisa shurak limud. B'seichel ha'maisa, intelligence in technique or intelligence connected to something that is in action, that's only an education that needs training. Limud haloshen shebay melubish ha'seichel. Just like you learn the language in which the seichel is manifest and clothes itself. And every shleimus comes from a new hamshacha, from a transmission from the core of the soul. That's semech. That was, chai shebe medaber. And medaber shebe seichel, as I said, is etzem sichli baskolas alakus. The etzem sichli, the core seichel, which he said befrat, is an understanding of the divine. Ubefrat b'hafshata, especially as it's stripped from any matter. Shekenu b'madregas anailas balakus. That's how it is in the highest level, in the higher levels of the divine. Now Aveda, what we learn now. What's Datz Cham? Oy kfir b'pel. Here's an oy. It doesn't say that inside. So kima mitzvahs in el masa, like a burden and a load. Oy kfir b'pel, or you force yourself. In the Pnim, by the way, when we learned it was together because. You don't want to do it on your own. That's why it was the same thing. Okay, fine. He says, "Oi, b'zakstav them."
It's a shver. Like oil masa is like it's hard. It's hard. I'll do it, but it's hard.
So, but why is that an oi? That means it's ayidek v'yapir. The oi makes it sound like there's a second thing here. Okay. He says it's tzemeach ukeshesh lechayis ksas v'simchas hanefesh. There you go. Tzemeach that has a little vitality and simchas hanefesh. The joy. Chai, k'shekim mitzvah same ba'av v'yira. So a very nice summary here. Balbatish. Chai is when the mitzvahs of performance are with love and awe. Or medabru avedet etzem amech. And medaber is etzem, core intelligence. Or b'sefer shal beinim, the daimim maisa, semeach dibur. Chai av v'yira, hamasoteres, medaber av v'yira b'izgalus. So there you see a little different. Daimim is Maisa, Sameach is Dibur. Okay, it's nice. Chai is Avavir, Musater is hidden. Medaber is revealed Avavir. So he says, the answer is Zeh Shaykh L'Kima Mitzvahs. That's in Kima Mitzvahs, that's how you divide the 4. Because you're already relating to action. So related to action, even Medaber is connected to Avavir, to some application and emotions. But Etzem HaVeida yesh lehem a kanal. But in Etzem HaVeida, the Seder is the way you said here. Medaber is Etzem HaMechin. And basically Chai would include both Ava Mishateres and Ava Galus, which is very consistent with what you said earlier. Okay, we shall stop here. We did chapter 147, the end of 147, page 285 and 286.